that purpose. That live stream is available through the district website. I think it's also on a YouTube channel, so you can access it that way. Any of you from the public who are looking for that after the meeting, if you're having trouble finding it, because sometimes our directions aren't as intuitive to other people as we think they are to us, please call somebody so that you're not getting frustrated looking for it. I think you'll be able to find it. It's under the school board or board issue on the website, I believe. You should come right to it. There'll be a drop down menu on the board. We're experimenting with microphones and cameras to determine what's going to work best for this room and the angles that we have. I may end up repeating some questions from the audience tonight just to make sure we're picking them up. If you are going to speak at some point, please use the best delivery voice you have. And we don't know how everything's going to pick up, so we're just trying to experiment with that and see how that goes. So I just wanted you all to be aware that that's what's happening. So first item of business is the oath of office for our two newly elected board members, Betsy Lupke and Don Bruing. And I believe, Kim, you handle that oath of office.
Yeah, then we're going to do Rob's thing first, though.
Well, let's do that first.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fine.
absolutely. No, we can do Rob's thing first. We should. Sorry. I'll try to get on track here in just a minute or two. A lot of new things tonight. We have the occasion of a retiring board member tonight. I failed to look up how many years Rob has been on the board, but a long time, 15 years. It's a very significant commitment. And I had a couple of comments that I wanted to make as Rob steps off of the board this evening. I don't know about any of you, but over the past few days, I spent considerable time thinking about Rob Roy. When I first came on the board, I didn't know Rob at all. He was just a name to me. I have now had time to work closely with and come to know Rob, and he's so much more than a name. I decided to make a list of the values that come to mind when I consider Rob. You may have your own list. Mine goes like this: calm, thoughtful, knowledgeable, values-driven, kind, compassionate, unassuming, an advocate for kids, and a leader. Rob helped my transition to becoming a board member. His logic was easy to resonate with and to understand. Do things right, focus on students, and realize that the soft voices echo longer than the strident shouts. Recently, I saw this quote on Facebook. It is so appropriate here tonight. The greatest gift you can give someone is your time, because when you give your time, you are giving a portion of your life that you will never get back. Rob Roy has given countless hours of time to the school district of Milton, and thus the students and staff members. While Rob may not get those hours back, all of us will for a long, long time. Thank you, Rob, for your service, your time, your leadership, your dedication, and your love for Milton. We will miss you on this board, and we will try to live up to your legacy.
Please stay afterward. We have cake and bottles of water and time to honor Rob after with a little refreshment.
Now we can move to the oath of office for Rob and for Betsy.
Yes. Draw straws, whoever would like to go first. You have your oath in front of you. And
I, Betsy Lupke, having been elected to the office of Board of Education for the School District of Milton, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
I, Don Bruing, have been elected to the office of Board of Education for the School District of Milton, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
And you just want to sign those and you're all set.
Welcome, Ken.
Welcome, Dan.
Let's get these some copies over to Kim so that she can put them in her official vault.
You're good. Thank you.
The next item of business is the election of board officers and it's the CISA 2 delegate from board.
Mr. President, I would like to nominate you, John Kuzan, as president and to close the nominations and cast a unanimous ballot for John Kuzan as president.
Second.
A motion by Bob and a second by Tom. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried.
I would like to nominate Bob Cullen as vice president and close nomination and cast unanimous vote for Bob Cullen as vice president.
I second that.
I have a motion by Shelley and a second by Don. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, no. Motion is carried.
I'd like to nominate Betsy Lutke as clerk, and close the nominations and cast a unanimous ballot for Betsy Lutke for clerk.
I second that as well.
I have a motion by Tom and a second by Don. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, no. And the motion is carried.
I would nominate Tom Westrick as treasurer and move to close the nominations and cast a unanimous ballot for Tom Westrick as treasurer.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion by Betsy and a second by Bob to approve Tom Westrick as treasurer. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed, no. Motion is carried.
And I would move to nominate Don Bruink as our CISA 2 delegate and to close the nominations and cast a unanimous ballot for Don Bruink as CISA 2 delegate.
Second that.
Motion by Bob and a second by Tom to approve Don Bruink as our CISA 2 delegate. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, no. And the motion is carried. So we have a new slate of officers and a CISA 2 delegate. And that item of business is concluded. Next item is the approval of the agenda or the remaining portion of the agenda. Any changes or additions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Tom and second by Bob to approve the remainder of the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, no. Motion is carried. Next item is the approval of the minutes from the April 11th meeting. You have those in your packet.
I make a motion we accept the minutes for that meeting as written.
Second.
Motion by Tom and a second by Betsy to approve the April 11th minutes as presented. Any further discussion?
Kind of up on board, but I think it was a good kind of history lesson where we've been and where we're going, upgrading. Major financial piece was presented at that second meeting, capital improvement plans, school funding basics. There was a good presentation kind of on funding 101, on how we get our state funding and different capacities that way, and then bond ratings, which can be overwhelming, and it still is to me. Hearing it, even though I've heard it several times, it's never enough, I think. Both meetings involved Milton administration staff, PRA and Cullen, and then the fact members, and then there were community members in the audience also. Each meeting, there's been good handouts given out too, that if there's any questions, and all those handouts are also on our website for anyone who wants to look at those. The next meeting, the third meeting we had was last week, and that was included a tour of East and the middle school. It was more or less a brainstorming session. A list of thoughts from each fact member was created on, I think what their priorities are, what their impressions were, the things they've been seeing in the buildings. It was the first time I'd been in the basement at East. I'd been to the gym, but had not seen the lunchroom and some of the other areas there. I'm always counting how many desks are in each room and what the size of the rooms are and things like that. So it's been a good learning curve for me also. The condition of the pool and other facilities was talked by Stephen. There were a lot of questions for him that night, and so that was a good way for them to also see that. And I think that Tim talks that Mr. Shiger's also been doing his help, and Betsy was in the pool there too, to show what it looks like when the water's not in and show what some of the facilities are doing. So I think the next meeting, again, will kind of have them taking the majority of the responsibility of the meeting, which is, I think, what we're getting into the meat of things. And I think it's going well. There's been some really tough questions asked too, and I think they've been good questions. About how much money our district spends per pupil, and what if we increase that money? What if we, did different things? So it's been questions that I think have been eye-opening to the rest of the people on the committee, and as well as myself in the audience. It hasn't been, well, let's jump in and do something here. They want to know the background, the reason why the district's doing what it's doing, and what it's spending, and why is it spending what it's spending. And I think that that's really been helpful with some of the questions they brought up.
Okay. Any questions for Shelley? Further discussion? I think most of us have been at those meetings, so are pretty up to date as well. Next item is possible approval of an updated Facilities Advisory Committee team roster. Barry, were you going to speak to us?
I sure can, yeah. Good evening, Barry Brandt. I'm the co-chair of the fact committee along with Leslie Hammer, who couldn't make it tonight. We recently were advised that two of our members, for personal reasons, can't fulfill their obligations onto the fact team. Each one of them only been to one of the 3 meetings, and each one of them reached out to Leslie and I and just said, listen, we don't feel good about our ability to continue to meet our obligations. So Leslie and I were thinking about that, and the fact that the board approved a 22-person committee, we felt like we'd come tonight and talk about a proposal that we made to our committee and was not unanimously recommended, but recommended by our committee pretty significantly, that we had 2 members, and that those 2 members to take the place of the other 2 members. And what we felt like the group there's been a community group, as you're probably all aware, kind of a second community group out there, and we felt like because of their action that they've taken and the fact that they've really spent some time and energy and effort, that we would propose that they select 2 of their members to join our fact committee, with the only stipulation that they would be up to speed as to what we've done for the first 3 meetings. We don't want to have to relearn some of the things that we've talked about already. And there's been several of them at the meetings. And so we thought it'd be appropriate if the board approved, that we would reach out to that group and allow them to select a couple of members to add to our committee if they're so inclined. I have not done that. I thought we'd bring it to the board first and get your approval, because we don't think we have the authority to do that necessarily. So we did poll our committee. Out of the 20 folks that voted, 16 voted yes, 2 voted no, 2 didn't vote, couldn't reach them. So that's a proposal.
Barry, can I ask where the 2 that can't continue?
Scott Storlett and Eric Richards.
Okay.
Yeah. Each of them had a change in their life that does not allow them to continue. And in fact, Scott's the one that kind of began the discussion and recommendation that we think about doing this. And it kind of ran from there.
I think an appropriate motion for the board, depending on how the board feels about this, would be to approve the process recommended by Barry and Leslie, the co-chairs in the fact group, to allow this other group to name 2 of the members. But that would be action we could take, or we want to discuss how we feel about that.
I think it's a good idea. The idea that we get back to the original number, and that committee voted how to get there. And I think it's good to have a couple of people from the other group. And I think it's a good idea to allow them to choose those two representatives on the board. So I think it sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea too, because we had people who wanted to meet on their own and look at the situation further. So if they're willing to do that each week, I think it'd be good if we had a couple of people from that group as well.
I'm sorry, I should have, one of the stipulations was that they applied for fact initially.
Yeah,
So that's
right.
most of them,
From-
if I'm understanding
Right,
most
the
of
group,
them.
the people from the group who applied for the fact committee.
Anyone else care to speak for the issue? I think it's a great idea myself, to fill those vacancies that you have. I would entertain a motion that would approve that process.
I make a motion that we accept the recommendation from Barry to fulfill the 2 seats that are vacant.
Second?
I have a motion from Tom and a second from Shelley to approve the replacement process as we've just discussed. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Thank you for having process. Next item on our agenda is item 12, and it's discussion and possible approval of a procedure to fill our vacant board seat. There are literally a plethora of options available to us according to the way our policy is written, and we need to discuss and determine what that process is going to be. So with that being said, I thought I would start and share my opinion about this. I've, again, invested considerable time and energy in thinking and pondering this issue of filling this particular vacancy. I found it very challenging. It wasn't an easy decision for me because initially I was pretty conflicted about the decision. That was personal kinds of things that were going on that I needed to sort out and deal with about that issue. So it really caused me to spend many, many hours thinking and wrestling with various options available to us and the possible outcomes of those options. A couple of days prior to our last board meeting, I had my thinking solidified and had come to the conclusion, and my conviction is that we should choose the candidate who received the next highest vote total after Don and Betsy to fill that position. And a quote from John Kennedy's first inaugural address in 1961 is kind of helpful to me in my deliberations and some of the studying and writing I was doing to sort through that decision. I'm sure you've heard this before somewhere because it's a fairly famous quote, but John Kennedy in that 1961 inaugural address said, "Let both sides explore what problems unite us instead of belaboring those problems that divide us." To me, that's a very strong guiding principle and one that I think would be appropriate for us to consider here. So that's where I will position myself about this particular issue. But I would like to hear from the rest of you. So.
My personal opinion is to see a former board member appointed for this one-year position, because it'll only be a one-year position, and the position would be up for election again in a year. I think we need to have continuity and streamlining with the process that we've already been involved in. We have a lot of important decisions to make in the next 6 months if we choose to do so, and putting someone new in that position, you know, will make it very difficult for what we've already been going through and doing for the past 18 months. I'm not sure if there's even any board members interested, but my personal opinion would be to appoint a former board member to that position.
I think just for clarification, I just would like to, John referenced the board policy. We haven't had this in the time that I've been on the board. I think there was a time 20-some years ago. 21 years ago, where we had a situation where the board at that time had to appoint. The 4 options that are outlined in BBBE of the school district policy states that the board would meet in open session and determine the method to be used. to select from the following. A, appoint the next runner-up from the last election. B, accept nominations from the board and use an interview process. C, request letters of interest from the public and use an interview process. Or D, appoint a former member of the school board. So those are the four things that are outlined in, and I think there, like you said, there's a plethora. There probably, I think it goes on to say, basically the board has a lot of latitude with regards to the what, but those are just four things that were outlined in the policy that we have. It's on the agenda here this evening for the discussion, possible approval of the procedure, not necessarily naming a person or. I would like to at least narrow the list down to, my feeling would be to A, appoint the next runner-up from the last election, or D, appoint a former board member. But just for discussion, I think we should at least narrow it down, and maybe if you want to limit it to one of those options, but I'd like to at least just narrow it down to the A and the D.
I think that I agree with both Shelley and Bob. We're going through some pretty serious times right now, and it would really be nice to have a board member with some experience. On the other hand, looking at the last election, the runner-up did receive a lot of votes. And so at this point, I would be leaning towards appointing the next runner-up for a one-year position.
Either way, I did have a question, and I'm not sure who, the seat that Janet Green vacated by her resignation had 2 years left on her term. Are we crystal clear that it is just the 1 year
To the next
to
election.
the next election? That's it by state statute? Is that what
Right.
that guys
So
said?
then it would be the election then for 1 year. Now, I'm clarifying, and I'll have that clarification if there's, let's say there'll be 3 seats then,
Right.
2 3 years and 1 year.
Okay.
And then I believe it's first, second, third. So then the third vote getter would be for 1 year and then can run again with a regular term. We're not changing the terms of that office, or of that seat.
Yeah.
And so I'm clarifying that because I think if there's only 3 people that run, then it's first, second, get the 3 year terms, and then the third would get the 1 year.
Do you clarify that with state elections? or-
I'm working on that, yeah, I haven't gotten the official word back yet. but-
Okay.
But it is until next April, and then
Right.
that person would have to run if they wish to.
Okay. So we'll have that, another few days or a week or something, before we have to make a decision, I guess. Okay,
By tomorrow, I think.
okay.
Yeah, that's just talking about the election a year from now.
Correct.
Right.
For this will be 3 positions, be 3 positions.
I've had somebody ask me, why not 2 years if Janet had 2 years left on her term, why just 1? The answer is state statute?
Yeah.
Okay.
John, I'd like to comment also. I understand the desire to have a former board member who would have some experience, and that's certainly one of the options that I look at. But I agree. I think the fairest thing to do is to take the person who received the next votes. Again, that person did receive quite a few votes, and I think that's indicative of what our constituents we're interested in terms of who should serve on the school board. And since that election is so close to the resignation, I think it might be different if the resignation had come later and we were looking for a shorter term period and that election had been a ways away. But since it was so close, I really do think that the best thing for the board to do would be to appoint the next runner-up in terms of number of votes.
I guess my feeling is, I thought about this and I thought about what Betsy said, appoint the next vote getter. But also I know we could use experience on the board for the time that we have, for the things that we have facing us in the future. Because we have a lot of board members here who've never been through referendums where we've done buildings, and it might not be a bad idea to have some experience of somebody who has, if we have people out there who'd be willing to serve. And I guess it's unknown to me to make a decision, and I don't know if highest next vote getter wants to serve, and if we have board members who want to come back. So it's pretty hard to make a decision having those unknowns.
Well, the next highest vote getter has indicated to me that yes, she would be interested in serving if the board chose to go in that direction, at least at this time. So that piece of that answer, unless that answer has changed, I don't believe it has.
And I also know, I think we have a board member who did serve probably 20 years and has been through some referendums before, some building projects that probably would be interested as well.
Any other comments? I would entertain a motion as to what your wishes might be.
John, are we just voting to procedurally move ahead with one of those options?
Yes.
We're not actually appointing anyone this evening, correct?
Well, if we choose option A, the selection is obvious. I mean, it's kind of a foregone conclusion, I would say at this point. But, yeah, the agenda item says we're selecting procedure. So the actual appointment would probably take place between now and the next board meeting. Swearing in will probably be then at the next board meeting, which I think it indicates an item. I don't know that you have that policy in front of you, but item 2 of that policy says the clerk may not swear in the nominee until the next regularly scheduled board meeting after the appointment has been made. So that is pretty clear that it would be whatever date our next meeting is in May, the actual swearing in would occur.
It just occurred to me, I want to be clear if it's an appointment or if it's a vote, a majority vote of the board. I want to clarify that. As part of number 2 in the policy, when a person has been selected to fill the vacant board seat, the clerk may not swear in the nominee until the next regular, that's what you just said, next regular scheduled meeting after the appointment has been made. So an appointment, is that by majority vote of the board?
I would think it certainly could be.
Or should be?
Yeah, in a situation like this, or any voting situation where there's only 6, a 3-3 is no action.
Yeah.
And because there's no one breaking a tie, I guess.
What I would like to say is if Al Royal is interested in the position, I would like to nominate him to be selected as our board member. I've known Al for a long time. I think he was a board member for 20 years. He's always been known as very fiscally conservative with the taxpayer dollar. When I was teaching at Milton, what I admired about Al is he was always in the buildings. He knew what was going on within the district, and I think he would be a great appointment for the challenges that we face ahead for this 1-year period.
I would have no argument with Al being a great appointment. I would go back to my original premise. I feel the appropriate thing for us to do is to name the next runner-up in both polls.
Yes, when looking at the 2 options that I thought about would work the best for the board, Gabriel did, his name did come to mind, and I think he would be an excellent addition back on the board to help us through. But I as well am going to stick with the runner-up in the last election because of the large number of votes that individual received.
Are you making that a motion?
I think I made a motion.
I'm sorry, I missed
So I
the
need a second.
wording. Can you I'm sorry, can you,
Right, and so I would make the motion if that we select Al Rail, that he is willing to accept the position.
I'm sorry, I was just like add on. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
David's motion and second that we appoint Al Rail as former board member if he's willing to serve. Any further discussion? I'm going to call that question and I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. Don?
Aye.
Bob?
Nay.
Tom? No. Shelley?
Yes.
Betsy?
No.
And I would vote no on that also. So that motion is defeated. We have a motion to move forward with appointing the next runner-up in the vote totals.
John, I would make that motion to appoint the next person in the vote totals, which is Karen Hall. Calling her not with her name, but I think we should use her name, so. I would make that as a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Betsy and a second by Tom to appoint the next runner-up to the vote total, Karen Hall. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. We're going to ask for a roll call vote on this also. Don?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Tom? Aye. Shelley?
Yes.
And I would vote yes, that motion is carried. So Karen will talk about those details as over the next few days. And as we said, a swearing in would be at the next board meeting. So.
John?
Yes, sir.
May we have a moment that we're having a brief camera issue?
Yes.
Can we just pause the meeting for a minute?
An adjournment?
Just not adjournment. Just pause.
I know, I
Get
meant
past the second.
I didn't mean that. I meant an intermission.
Just a few moment break. So we can
Yes.
Make sure that the audio is working well, the camera is.
Okay, we're good to go again. Again, this is just a little technical glitch. The camera setting had to be adjusted. Apparently it timed out. The big M came up. People could still hear what we were saying, but they couldn't see. So we'll have a couple of these glitches until we get all the little bugs worked out. So we have this operating just a little more smoothly. The sound is being picked up very well. I'm told it was just the camera that was causing us an issue. So. Item 13, discussion and possible approval of high school extended field trip request. Bill Warren.
All right, in your packet, you do have 3 additional requests for students who are traveling. Again, first of our policy, you can't students go overnight. We do need board approval. The 3 that you have on there, one of them is to Atlanta, Georgia. That's in June. That's 4 members of our Future Business Leaders of America that made the national meet. They qualified for that. We have the History Club trip, which is next fall, but students will be starting to sign up for that soon. That's to Dallas, Texas. And then also, and I will actually ask Ed Snow to speak just a little bit to this, put him on the spot. But we have 7 I-Cadets who this summer will be traveling to Denver, Colorado. Again, I-Cadets program at the high school. We have students who work with the tech department. They work on both fixing iPads and laptops equipment, answering questions. They are a huge service to not only the high school, but also the entire district. And Ed Stoll is going to be taking 7 of them to Denver this summer.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. It's a real exciting time for us. We're actually, in August, we submitted a request to present, to talk about our iCadet program. ISTE is the world's largest technology education conference in the world. It's just over 15,000 attendees. The application was just under 3,000 that applied, and a little over 1,000 got accepted. So about 30% got accepted to present. So it's a huge honor to be accepted. So Tim and I were there last year, and we presented, and the kids will be doing a similar presentation where it's kind of it's a poster session. They'll set up different examples of the things they've done, and then I'll probably see about 500 different people in about 2 hours. They'll come forward and talk to them about the program. So it's really a great opportunity for our kids. And Jeremy's been ever so supportive of it. So it's happening in his building. So kudos back to him.
So all of these trips fit our policies. We have that pretty down, very tight.
So we have, everyone has the chaperone requirements. Everyone has an opportunity to fundraise through a student activity account. So that meets all the standards.
That was a question I had. The other ones are either through History Club or FDLA, but the iCadet is stated that it's student funded. Are they doing fundraisers?
A little bit of
or-
both. We have a little bit of money that we get set aside for just such a thing that we're working for some projects for the iCats that we held back for this purpose. We didn't spend it on other things, so we're applying that towards the students. And the students are also paying, I believe, $175 to go. It's about $25 a day to be a part of it. We're driving to save money, so I get to ride in the car with a lot of kids for 15 hours to and from. So we're trying to keep the costs minimal. We instead of doing hotels, because hotels are very expensive downtown Denver, we actually got a condo with lots of bedrooms. It was a lot more affordable. So trying to keep that cost price down, and the students all get in for free, and that's about $500 value for each student. So
And Tom, let me tell you, the iCadets do wonderful work, because when I was teaching there this winter, I probably utilized them more than anyone. Me being technology challenged, and it was nice to have a couple of them in class, because they certainly helped me right away. So it's good. It's a great program. I think it'll be well worthwhile.
I think because they're such a big help to the administration staff and fellow students, I think we should look at that as a district as helping fund that more.
Okay.
Because the service they do is to help our students. So whatever process the other clubs have, if they're taking from their expenses are taken from dues or whatever the case may be, I think we should make the cadets equal to them and not require them to
Yeah,
earn their own.
a good portion of it has been covered already, but we can take a look at other options.
we're making sure everybody gets to go.
They're essentially a pretty significant extension of staff in the tech area, are they not?
It's a good combination of absence service to the school district and the district and the school and the district. There's also a lot of learning opportunities that they have. So they are getting credit for the things they're learning. Tim Paul is the teacher of that course. Obviously, they work in conjunction with Justin Watson and Ed.
And Tim will be joining us.
Tim will be driving. Tim is the teacher of the course. He'll be.
John, I move approval of the high school extended field trip request by Mr. Goldhorn.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Bob and a second by Don to approve the extended field trip proposal requests. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Motion is carried. Item 14, discussion and possible approval of the 2016-17 school fees and meal prices. So who is speaking to that issue for us tonight?
We have, in your package, you have the school fees, minimal changes. We do have the elementary fee and going up $3 to $30. And then the 4K students, that price is 50% of the kindergarten, so I went up the $1.50 to $15. And with that, is anything that Sheila wishes to speak about meal pricing, but everything in there is very minimal. So,
And this is the first increase in 6 years to that fee? Is that what I'm reading there?
Yep.
You want two motions, you want the school fees separate from the meal fees?
No, I think you can just implement that as all at once.
All right.
Sheila, can you talk a little bit about the increases on?
Sure. I believe you all received a copy of the memo. This, of course, is an annual process that's required. And we've lost a little bit of local control over setting our own prices. It is tied into, since we're federally subsidized program, the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act of 2010. This was mandated by USDA in an effort to seek equity in school lunch prices throughout the country. It's intended to bring full priced meals in line with the federal reimbursements that districts receive for providing free and reduced lunches. So basically, they don't want what we're receiving in federal subsidies for free and reduced meals to lower the prices for our paid students. So basically, we are given a formula that we plug our numbers into each year based on our October data annually. And this year, the increase is a 2% increase of the weighted average for the October 2015 meals that were served at paid price, plus the CPI of 2.97. So that amount is equivalent of raising meal prices at each of the subsequent grade levels by a dime, which has been what we've I think done since its inception. So that's what we're asking again for the 16-17 school year, which would put K-3 at $2.50, North Side $2.65, middle and high school at $2.85. Reduced would stay the same. Adult meals would also go up by a dime to $3.65. However, we are asking to leave breakfast prices the same, which we also did last year. I just have a little note at the bottom of the memo stating that we'd really like to do that in an effort to try and preserve as much participation, since our breakfast participation is on the low side anyways. We're only talking around $1,700 if you base off of breakfast served for the current school year so far. So that would be eaten by $150 to keep those prices the same for breakfast. And so that would be my proposal.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendations for the fee increase as well as the lunch program.
Second.
A motion by Tom and a second by Betsy to approve the increase in the general school fees and the hot lunch program fees as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, no. The motion is carried. Item 15, discussion and possible approval of the Plunkett Ridge Architects Contract Addendum.
In your package, you have the contract addendum from Plunkett Research. Essentially, the scope of work when we signed on with them last summer was to get us through January in either to a referendum or to not. As we recall, in January, we tabled that. And so their scope of work really ended at that time. And so what this is doing is extending their contract. And it's extending it from really February through midsummer when the fact team is done. The PRA obviously is attending the fact meetings. Essentially, a lot of the work that they'll be doing now will be new stuff, because a lot of the stuff that was presented between the summertime and the fall was a lot of existing documents and floor plans and whatever else. And if the fact team comes back with other solutions, those solutions would not be ones that were already presented. And so we're assuming, and so this is really to extend their contract to the scope of the work through midsummer, end of summer.
And if we went to referendum and it passed, some of those fees would also be credited back, correct?
Correct.
I'd like to make a motion that we extend the contract with Plunkett Ridge.
I'll second that.
Motion by Tom and a second by Rob to extend the architect's contract. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion is carried. Item 16, discussion and possible approval for a resolution authorizing the gift of real property located at 120 Parkview Drive. Tax parcel, there's a great big long number there, for the city of Milton, and related offer to purchase and other contract documents, basically related to the Milton East Elementary Parking and Traffic Flow Project.
We have a resolution here, and I'll let Stephen speak in a moment. We also have, he'll probably also speak to the updated map as well. And so, with that, let's see, this is again the next step of the East project that we're hoping to have completed by Chicken Barbecue.
Hopefully. The memorandum is from our attorney that is kind of summarizing where we're at with the legal process to obtain that parcel land that used to be the police station there. It's been an interesting process, a lot of different hoops to jump through to make that formally ours. But last month we got city approval on the offer to purchase, as well as the easements and the vacation agreement street. So all of the processes with the city are now complete. So that's why we're here before you today to have hopefully the school board formally approve the gift of that land to the school district. And then that would be able to be ours to start constructing whatever plan we decide to go with right after school gets out. And I can speak kind of to the progress that we're making with the development of that site plan. I think Kim emailed out the revised site plan to you. The only real difference from the last one that you've seen is the loss of a few parking stalls on what would be the top right or the northwest corner of the parking lot. We had to add a little green space there because there was a power pole that unfortunately can't be moved. It ended up with a loss of 6 parking spaces, but it really couldn't have happened in a better spot. And there was also from our attorney, critical dates map, and that really outlined what other hoops we have to jump through in order to make that formally ours, other contingencies we need to satisfy. But all those should be easily done by our closing date, which is projected to be June 1st. And with the construction side of things, we'll be taking it out for bids this Wednesday, the 27th, to get the bids back Wednesday, May 11th. To hopefully have construction start the second week we are out of school, which will be that date, but substantial completion would be that Friday before the chicken barbecue. So, knock on wood, hopefully that happens.
Stephen, has a formal decision been made yet on whether or not we really did own the property, or are they still working on that?
So we're still waiting on a second title search to come back on that, but the first title search that came back, basically told us that we own the police station property all along. Our best guess on how that happened is they put Green Street in, and that little triangle of land that the police station was built on was basically what could have been a handshake between the city and the school district at the time to allow the city to put a police station on there. And, the title paperwork that came back dated back to Ezra Goodrich and Joseph Goodrich splitting up, North Goodrich Park, South Goodrich Park in the school. So that was actually a really cool history lesson to see all that paperwork. But yes.
So the district may even own the milk house.
It's a possibility.
Not a good possibility.
So to make it official, we wanted to make sure though that even though it might be our property, let's just put this formal resolution together. So that way there isn't any kind of conflict down the road. But yeah, it appears that we didn't collect a lot of rent.
Just to make it clear that the offer to purchase is for $0.
The offer to purchase is for $0. It's really, going with the offer to purchase is a really clean way to have our easements all tied together with the offer to purchase with the registrar of deeds, so that anybody that does work on that parcel of land in the future will have a clear title to go off of, and it'll be clean from here on out.
We've been kind of saying all along that the majority of this land is school district property. It's even greater than what we realize.
Absolutely.
That's the part of the target
Pretty
it's
much, it's 100% school property. Yes, but obviously, like an offer to purchase, we're not purchasing it. That's the official paperwork, but it is for $0.
Yeah.
We're gonna buy it for ourselves.
I also included a landscape plan too, just so you guys can kind of get an idea of what is going to be going back in this place. It will be about a month or so. There'll be about 29 trees coming down from there. So I thought maybe you guys might get a phone call when trees start dropping. So you can really share with the community what's going to go back in this place.
It will be green going back up, it's just that.
Right.
So we're gonna replace 29 with how many?
I believe it's 36.
So they're gonna get a better deal on it.
And, you know, regardless of this project, we have a lot of ash trees with it. We wouldn't have had to take down there anyway, so it's really a benefit all around.
Maybe it'd be good to make a note of that before we start taking them down, so we don't get criticized.
Maybe. That will probably get people excited if a lot of trees start coming down, they don't really know what's going on, so. We have to memorize this landscape document, fill it in.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It'll be as good as next board meeting.
I'd like a motion that we approve the resolution authorizing the gift of real property located at 120 Parkview Drive, tax parcel 2571142 from the city of Milton, and related off the purchase and other contract documents as presented.
A second.
A motion by Tom, second by Don. Any further discussion? All those,
One last comment.
Yes.
We did get Milton East's new address today.
Mhm.
And it is, just so you know, it'll be 201 South Gainesville Street.
1 South Janesville.
Yes.
Kramer, do you have t-shirts for that?
That's 725 green.
Okay, we have a motion, a second on the floor. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion is carried. Item 17, Human Resources Committee report. Betsy.
The Human Resources Committee met on April 1st. We had 4 items on our agenda. First item was the status of the long-term care plan. As a reminder, the WEA Trust currently provides a long-term care plan that we pay for our district employees. They have presented us, as well as all other school districts that have this particular benefit, an option to terminate the plan and offering a payout to employees who are participants in the plan, depending on how long they've been in the plan. We've talked about this briefly at the board. We've talked about it a couple of times at our Human Resources Committee. We've continued to do some research. Our idea from this committee was to present it to the Benefits Advisory Group, which we got together a few weeks later, and I'll be talking about next, and we'll talk a little bit more about it then. But again, we are moving forward with that. We are not making, at this point, a proposal to terminate that plan yet, but that is fairly likely based on the feedback that we've gotten. Again, it's a benefit. The plan itself is going up in terms of costs greatly this year, as well as WEA Trust is indicating it will continue to go up in cost quite a bit every year. And so, again, this opportunity that they're allowing for us allows us to give our employees who've been receiving this benefit, who had this benefit, the option to get something out of it. If we do not terminate the plan this year, then that goes away, and if we terminated the plan in the future, our employees would get nothing. And so, again, I'll talk a little bit about that. We discussed it at our Benefits Advisory Group. We got some feedback from them. So we'll talk a little bit more and hear more about that in the future. We also discussed health insurance direct bill retirees. This is a small group of retirees who are still on our insurance but pay for the health insurance directly. They pay for the full amount of the premiums. We are looking to have an individual from Associated Financial meet with them to talk about some options that they might have. We are not changing the plan for them at all, but we're just may offer them an opportunity to talk with someone to see if there are some options out there. With the Affordable Care Act and exchanges that are available, some of these people may be paying for a pretty high cost for a plan that they may be able to find elsewhere, a similar plan a lot cheaper. So this is just an assistance to them. We're not taking them off the plan, nothing like that. We're just trying to provide them some information, so if they choose to look at some other options, just so they know that's available. So that would probably be happening sometime in May, I believe. We'll be sending them a letter to just let them know we're going to offer them this process and the ability to talk to this expert. We also talked about benefits advisory group meeting, and I'll be going into that a little bit more in our next agenda item. And then we went into executive discussion just to discuss support staff wages. You received in your, from Tim back a couple of weeks ago, the information about support staff wages. As a reminder, we are recommending 2.5 increase for all support staff, which is supervisors, food service, district office staff, paraprofessionals. There were 4 exceptions to that you received, 4 individuals who would be an exception to that. We also, every year, the HR committee looks at a group of employees and does a kind of a market analysis to see if how they fit in terms of similar jobs, other school districts as well as in the general market. This year, we looked at building administrative assistants, and we're proposing a flat $1 per hour increase rather than a percentage increase for that particular group. Tim, do you know how many people, is that, it's less than 20 in that group, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's 21.
There is a little bit of additional cost to the budget in order to do that. It's less than $20,000, but again, it gets this group back and kind of into a better market range. So with that, I would make a motion to approve support staff wages as were presented, again, with those exceptions that I've outlined.
Second.
And a motion and a second to approve support staff wages as outlined. Any further discussion?
I would just like to add that over time, we have to look at our positions. Sometimes the positions evolve into something a whole lot more than what their title says they are. So we have to look at that, and we've been in the process of looking at all positions and see how they line up with other school districts and some of their responsibilities. So we don't want to get to the point where we have to make one big, huge market adjustment on a large group of people. So if we look at a small group each year, we can get them up where they should be, which was part of our strategic plan, is getting and keeping qualified staff. So.
Thank you, Tom. It's a great explanation of that process.
Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion is carried. Item 18, Human Resources Committee / Benefits Advisory Group.
You may remember, or you may not, but several years ago, back after Act 10 came about, we put together a benefits advisory group. This is a group of staff that we asked to get together. At that point, we were looking at the need to put together handbooks for our professional staff, as well as discuss some benefit things outside of items that were no longer a part of the contractual agreement with professional staff. So we had a group that we put together for pretty much a full school year. We met with that group, got some great feedback, and worked through putting together handbooks. We felt it was a really good process, and so they haven't been back together in about almost 3 years. But we wanted to get them back together and talk about a few things that were going on and get some feedback. So we brought them together again on April 7th. One of the items that we talked about was teacher and support staff handbooks. We're looking at doing some updates on those to make sure that they are in alignment with our policies that the board's been working on. And so we just mentioned to that group if they had particular feedback on issues to let us know, so that as we're working through that, as we make changes, that we get some feedback. There was no feedback directly from that group that night, but we asked them to kind of talk to other staff and make sure to get any questions or clarifications or suggestions to Chris. The next item was the long-term care plan. Al Yeager from Associated Financial was there at the meeting, and he presented the explanation about long-term care, what it is, the whole WEA trust and their offer, and we talked through it as best we could to make sure that they understood what was going on. Again, I think we got some good feedback from that group that it seems to make sense for employees to terminate the plan, but again, we haven't made that decision yet. We are looking at putting together a presentation from WBA Trust to talk about the plan and what would happen if it was terminated, what benefits employees would be might be eligible for. That I think is going to occur sometime in May. And once we do that and get, again, additional feedback from staff, then we'll go forward and talk about what we might do. But in general, I think this group certainly saw the benefits of moving forward and looking at the ability to perhaps terminate the plan and again, get some benefits for employees that if we don't take action this year, will not be available. So again, you'll hear some more about that after we have that meeting. Probably, I would think, the first or second meeting in June will probably come back. The HR committee will probably come back with a proposal about that particular plan. We also spent some time talking about some of the things we had discussed 3 years ago in terms of affordable care and health insurance. We looked at kind of what's been happening. Al does a great job of giving information about what's happening in other districts so we can look at and compare ourselves in terms of where people are going with plans, healthcare plans, some of the trends that are out there. So we talked a lot about HMOs because that's been a continued trend from other districts in the state as well as around us. And so we walked through that. We also talked about something called biometric testing, which sounds a little intimidating, but is simply, it's part of a wellness plan and would allow us to get some information from our staff and then be able to push back to them some information on their health. And we're talking about the possibility of offering that next year as an optional item. Again, many districts have moved forward with making that a mandatory item for staff in order, again, what it does is hopefully it increases people's awareness about their own health, which hopefully drives down healthcare costs, which drives down premiums, makes everybody happy. So again, we're looking at maybe doing something optional next year. We'll get you some more information about that when that decision is made. We also talked about the Affordable Care Act and the Cadillac tax, and they all gave us some good updates. There have been some changes over the last year on that. Some things have been pushed back, which has helped us out as well as many other school districts and employers. And so it's a little bit fluid still though. So we're still trying to make sure that we are understanding what our responsibilities will be, especially with the Cadillac tax, which would impose some penalties at a point in the future if our healthcare plans are a little too rich. So we're still working on that. Again, we had some good updates from Al, and I think that was very helpful. So that group, again, I think we'll probably have another meeting with them at some point as well, and again, continue to get feedback from staff on those changes. So.
Betsy, do you have a wide range of ages of people on the benefit and the staff?
We do. The committee has, as it was structured before, did have a pretty good. It had some people that were more long term. We didn't have as good a turnout at this meeting. Not everyone showed that help, but we still had a pretty good. I think we had some support staff as well as some professional staff and some younger people as well as some people that are a little more mature.
I'm just asking because a lot of the newer staff wouldn't even fathom that they're going to need long-term care and what the benefit of it is, you know.
And we talked about that. I think even some of the more mature employees are not necessarily aware that they even had it and what it is. And that's one of the reasons that we're having WBA Trust come in. They will talk about kind of what it is. And again, what will happen once it goes away. It's a great benefit, but it is continuing to be extremely expensive. And there are some limitations. We can't just offer it to some. Everybody has to take it, or you can't just say, well, because Shelley wants it and Tom wants it, that I could opt out of it. It's not the plan isn't set up that way. So there are some limitations on what you can and can't do. So.
And right now, the district is putting the entire bill for that benefit.
Yes, correct. And one of the things we mentioned to this group was, certainly one of our options would be to say, well, you could all pay for it yourselves, but everybody would have to pay. And our feeling, and I think that group agreed, that it was unlikely we could get 100% of our support staff and professional staff to agree to pay for that benefit. Other questions, Tim? Anything else I
And
missed?
like Betsy said, it's all in or all out. And there's also a close to 17% increase with double-digit increases from here on out is what was in how we were informed, or what we were informed. And so there's additional discussions, nothing to decide yet, but it is very costly since we are paying for it for every employee that is benefit eligible. It's inexpensive, and knowing that it's going to be 17% this coming year and 10% minimum after that, it's a costly benefit. But it's something that we need to continue to educate people. Again, it's one of those things that rarely come up for people. So I think most people probably don't know they even have it. And so that was the first part of our meeting at the benefits advisory was please help us with this.
Yeah.
And so we can educate people that were there. We'll continue doing that before we make any decisions.
And again, I think even since that meeting, I think Chris told me that several other school districts have already made the decision and opted out. Again, it's a particular business that WEA Trust is trying to get out of. They don't say that exactly, but their intent is to not continue with that coverage. And so they're offering a pretty sweet deal to get the current districts that are involved in it, to get them to opt out of it and terminate the plan this year. So again, it is something that was not our idea to look at, but it came through WEA Trust, similar to the short-term disability and long-term disability, which WEA Trust terminated, and we went to a new provider. That was seamless, by the way, too. So. Any other questions on that?
All right. We are at item 19, which is discussion and possible approval of open enrollment alternative applications.
There are two applications in your packet to transfer out. Neither of these students are currently attending Milton. One is a recent move to the area, and the other one is a change in open rolled out school districts. So.
In honor of Rob Roy, I think a motion to be accepted.
I'll second that, not a grab.
Motion by Tom and second by Bob to approve the open enrollment alternative applications. We really don't have a choice. We do have to approve these anyway. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
When opposed, no. Motion is carried. Miscellaneous, item 20. We
Just
have,
a note before you go into there,
yes.
you'll see there's two staffing reports
yes,
and two gifts and donations from one each from the last meeting that we didn't get to, but one motion will cover both reports in both cases.
yeah, there are two staffing reports, so be sure you note that. One has a green banner across the top, and one has a blue banner across the top.
And John, I did forget to mention that in your packet was the presentation that Al did at the National Advisory Summit. We saw that.
Each staffing reports have 1, 2, 3 contracts, and
I move approval of the staffing updates for April 11th and April 25th as presented.
I'll take that.
motion in a second. It looks like, what, 3 contracts and 6 or 7 resignations and a couple of retirement notices. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed, no. Motion is carried. We have 2 gifts and donation reports also. One of them, $21,621.61. So the second one, $6,846.95.
I would make a motion that we accept both lists. It's amazing. Every meeting we have, we get tremendous support from the community, the parent groups, our business, and whatever the case. But we're very fortunate to live in a community that supports the school district as well.
I second that motion.
Motion by Tom, and a second by Don to approve gifts and donations. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion is carried. Meeting dates.
We have tomorrow's listening session at Blackhawk Tech, board listening session. Wednesday, we have a fact meeting at Milton High School at 6 p.m. May 6th, Human Resources Committee at 1 o'clock in the chief office. May 9th is our next school board meeting here. And then we have, then the following fact meeting, May 11th, we haven't determined the site yet, but that's the upcoming things. And there's nothing else at this point as far as any other committees. Maybe it does.
Having no other business on the agenda, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, no. Motion is carried. We are adjourned.